Hello and welcome back to Mark's Garden UK at Rose Cottage near Nantwich in Cheshire. Today I'm going to show you how to lay a small garden patio. This patio is going to be laid back here, just at the rear of the cottage, which is sheltered and shaded, and we're going to plant around it with all our tree ferns and hostas and other ferns, and it's going to be a lovely cool shaded area. The patio is going to form the centrepiece. Now, I've never laid a patio before in my life, so this is a first for me, so you're watching me learn on the job. YouTube has been my friend here. I've watched lots of videos on how to lay a patio. I've also used my father-in-law as a resource, Big John, who's been a builder for all his life. He's now a retired builder and he's been doing building projects for us for 31 years. So Big John, if you're watching, this one's for you. Before I get started, let me show you what I've already done. The first thing I did was I decided on a location. Then I scooped out about a foot of earth in a circular shape. I used my long-handled Irish spade. I took away all the soil. I used a piece of wood which is the same diameter as the patio as a measure to make sure that the hole had all the right dimensions from side to side. Then, when I'd finished digging the hole, I filled it back up with rubble and hardcore, bits of old bricks and concrete which I've collected from other projects around the garden. I used a hammer chisel to break all the bigger pieces up into smaller pieces so that they could be compacted down using a lump hammer. Now, if you're doing this project in your garden, you could buy hardcore. I've made my own by recycling. Also, rather than use a lump hammer, you could buy a whacker plate, but for this small project I didn't think a whacker plate was necessary, so I got away with my lump hammer. The idea behind whacking it down is to compress it and make a good solid base. So that's essentially what I did to prepare the ground. Decided on the space, dug a hole big enough, filled it full of hardcore and whacked it down. When I'd whacked it down, I went over it with a piece of wood and a spirit level to make sure it was relatively level, and any bits that weren't level I raked over and whacked them down once again. So I've got a lovely solid whack down base, slightly bigger than the patio that I intend laying on top of it. I've also prepared my work area in advance. I've laid out the patio here on my right so that I can see the whole scope of it before I start laying it. I also know that I've also got all the pieces I need. And I bought this off the internet as a patio kit. They've actually sent me 2 spare pieces over here. I've also brought an old board out which I will use to mix the sand and the cement together. Now, I was doing my research and there were various different opinions on what proportion of sand to cement you should use. Some said 5:1, others said 3:1. I suppose it depends on how heavy the traffic is in the area that you're about to patio. This is a very low traffic area, so I'm going to go with somewhere in the middle, around about 4:1. 4 parts sand, 1 part cement. Now, I've also brought out the washing up liquid. This is a tip from Big John, my father-in-law. Squirt a bit of washing up liquid into your mix. It just makes it more workable, and it makes it more workable for longer. And I'm going to lay a complete bed of sand cement mortar mix across the whole area. I'm not going to use dabs, because if you use dabs and you put your patio on top of that and you stand on a bit where there's nothing supporting it, it can cause the pieces to crack. So underneath each one of these patio tiles will be a complete bed of sand cement mortar mix. So I am going to use a mix of around about 4 parts sand to 1 part cement, and I'm going to do it in small batches so that I don't start panicking, and I'll do 1 bit of patio at a time and I'll expand out from the centre. Now, if you were doing a very large patio, you'd want a very slight incline. Mine is quite a small one. There will be a natural incline anyway, because I'm not that much of a professional. But if you're concerned, set up a line or something and make sure you've got a gradual slope so that the water can run off and not puddle. I'll be doing that manually using this piece of wood, a spirit level, and my eye. Some of these tiles are of different thickness, so the depth of the sand cement mortar underneath will be a different thickness. But the good thing about using the sand cement mortar mix on top of a relatively uneven surface is it will give it an even bed to sit on top of. And when that gets squidged down into all that rubble, it will form a lovely solid base. So the only thing left to do for me now is to start mixing and start laying. I am feeling a little apprehensive because I've never done this before and I'm learning on the job. If there are any learning points, I will stop the action and give them to you. Otherwise, I'll probably give you this in fast forward. Bear with me because I'm not a professional patio layer, but if anyone can do it, I can do it. And if I can do it, you can do it. I'll see you at the end for a quick catch up and recap. Having just said that I'm going to give it you all in fast forward, I've already stopped the action because there's a couple of points I wanted to make at this point. First one is I've wet the board down. Firstly, to stop it absorbing all the moisture out of the cement as I mix it, and also hopefully it will act as a kind of a lubricant when I'm pushing my spade underneath it. The other thing is I've made a lovely big area to mix in. There's nothing more frustrating than banging your elbow in something as you work around your pile of muck. So that's the second point. I've moved the sand and the cement over to one side out of the way. I'm now going to start introducing sand and cement onto the middle of this board, then a little bit of water at a time and mix it together. Now, the consistency I'm going to try and go for is somewhere between very firm and sloppy. What I mean by that is I need it to be malleable enough to push down the slab so that I can level it off, but not too runny that it just lets the slab sink into it. So a little bit of judgment there in that. So keep your eye on it. I'll be keeping my eye on the amount of water I put into the first load, and if it works out all right, I'll try and do the same thing on the second load. Let's get started. I think we're about there with that. It's kind of, I don't know how to describe it really. It's kind of a soft ice cream texture, I guess, but just about firm enough to carry the weight of a tile, but also loose enough for me to be able to squash the tile down. I'm now going to transport this big lump of cement to the centre and put the first piece in the middle. I'm just wetting that. Firstly to wash it out a bit, and also hopefully to stop this sticking to the bottom of it. In it goes. Over it goes. Into the middle, which I previously marked. And I dare say there'll be 1,000 professional builders laughing at me as I do this. Do I care? No, I don't. Let's squidge it down a bit. Now, I've covered up the middle point there, as you've probably noticed. You might be wondering how I'm going to set the first piece. I've got a piece of wood, which is exactly the right length. I've marked the middle of it. This purple mark here denotes where the centre of the first piece is going to be. So, let me go and get the first piece. Here is the first piece. And if I place the piece of wood about there, and then I rotate it about there, that gives me a good centre point around about there. Here we go. First time for everything. Let's give this a shot. It's on. It's well bedded. I'm going to get my spirit level. I'm just now gently easing that down onto the muck. Muck is a technical term from the building trade. I shall check it both ways for level. It needs to go down at that end. As I set that down into place, I constantly move it and wriggle it. It's finding a good level and a good, yeah, that's perfect for me. And let's just recheck the centre, because I don't want to run out of room over there, and nor do I want to run out of room over here. That's going to be just fine. Possibly a minor adjustment over in this direction. It's good this, because it's not set. It's quite easy to move. and trying to put any feelings of panic out of my mind. But that there is good enough for me. That's the inaugural laying of the first slab in my forever patio. Hopefully this will outlive me. It's got a firm bed underneath it. I don't see why it shouldn't. It's relatively level. What I need to do now is mix some more muck to go around the outside. I'll do that promptly because I don't want this to start setting. So there we go. The small garden patio is laid. It'll probably be about 48 hours, possibly even a week, before it's completely cured and set. So I'll be keeping off this completely. It's not yet grouted. I'm going to look into grouting. I'm going to check with YouTube and find out how best to grout this before I go ahead and do it. The other thing I'm going to do shortly is remove all the surplus rubble and hardcore from around the outside and then backfill it with soil and organic matter so that I can go ahead and plant all these lovely ferns and hostas and tree ferns directly into the ground to create a lovely enclosed sheltered jungle style garden. So keep your eyes out for that video coming soon. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been informative. I learnt a lot. I'm not going to repeat what I've learnt now, but I will type it all up in the description box below this video so that you've got a complete guide following the whole process from start to finish. Please do like it and share it if you've enjoyed it, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and comment below. It's always lovely to hear from you. What tips or advice would you give to anyone who was thinking about laying a small garden patio for the first time? And I'll see you soon.